Hi, I'm Hannah Jones and welcome to this week's MASTS. In this week's episode, I chat to Jonathon Hall, who is the head of Overseas UK Territories at RSPB, and we speak about how one of the world's largest wildlife sanctuaries came to being created. And I talk to Abigail Marshall, the coordinator for the Marine Science Co-ordination Committee. We speak about who they are and what do they do. Before we get to those interviews, I would just like to highlight that next week is the ScotMer Symposium, so Scottish Marine Energy Research Symposium. This is happening from the 1st to the 3rd of December. It's free, and if this is your kind of thing, make sure that you check it out. Sign up link is below. And we also have Reef Conservation UK annual meeting. This is also happening online, and it's happening from the 8th to the 10th of December with a registration fee of just £3. Registration link for that is also provided below, and both of these events are being run with support from MASTS, so please check it out and see who they have speaking at both of these events. And now for my conversation with Jonathon from RSPB. Before we leap into the topic of marine protected zones in UK Overseas Territories, I asked him, what does the RSPB have to do with UK Overseas Territories in the first place?
So we work across the territories, from the Caribbean to the South Atlantic to the Indian and Pacific Oceans, with local conservationists and local NGOs to help them support environmental protection on both land and sea.
Excellent. So all across the world, and I expect that you've been very lucky to actually visit some of these places as well, judging from your job title. So very lucky in that sense. But what we're talking about today has involved 20 years worth of work with a local community in a very isolated area of the world, and has resulted in one of the planet's largest sanctuaries for life above and underwater. So do you mind telling us where this is? Where can we find this sanctuary?
So Tristan da Cunha, the world's most remote inhabited island, is in the South Atlantic, about halfway in between South Africa and Argentina. The only way to get there is by boat. It's a 7-day voyage out of Cape Town. And this community of 250 people have announced that they're going to protect 90% of their exclusive economic zone, which is almost 700,000 square kilometres, as a fully protected marine protection zone.
So what has those 20 years been involving? Who's been participating in creating this marine protected zone?
So our partnership goes back to 20 years. We helped Tristan government establish a conservation department in the mid-noughties. We've been providing support to cover salary of 2 staff members of that 4-person team, and providing sort of training and capacity building and support. Since then, as a whole, Tristan-led conservation program has been developed. We've also been working with their fisheries department, assisting on sustainability research and management of their Marine Stewardship Council certified lobster fishery. And it's this long-term relationship where we've been very much, I think it's all about this just honest partnership working. We've been supporting Tristan. These are Tristanian decisions to be made about their own natural resources, but we've been able to bring in our expertise, our networks, funding and support to enable Tristan to firstly decide to engage with the UK government and its Bluebelt programme back in 2016, and now at this point identify the marine protection it wants for its own waters.
Absolutely. And as you already mentioned, the area around these islands is a marine protected zone. And do you mind expanding upon what does this mean for the islands? What can and can't happen within these waters?
Certainly. So Tristan decided they wanted to use the name of a marine protection zone because whilst this is very similar to a marine protected area, they felt that word is something that's used elsewhere and globally and isn't necessarily sort of belong to them and doesn't reflect their decisions and their ownership. So it's the Tristan da Cunha Marine Protection Zone, and within that area, all extractive activities, so fishing, hydrocarbons or mineral extraction will be prohibited. So, I mean, effectively it will be equivalent to a no-take area or a Category 1 marine protected area under IUCN terminology.
So who else was involved in this project? It was RSPB and the community on the island. Is there anyone else who was involved in establishing this marine protected zone?
Yes, we've created some brilliant long-term partnerships to help support the Tristan community on their decision-making process. So they've been supported, as mentioned, by the UK government Bluebelt programme. We've had a very successful partnership with the National Geographic Pristine Seas programme and launched a joint expedition to the territory in 2017. And we've also had a long-term work with our coalition of 6 NGOs called the Great British Oceans Coalition, who have been advocating at the UK level to make sure the UK government's been providing the support and finance to enable these territories to make these large-scale decisions that they couldn't make on their own. And the mechanism that's enabled this protection is they joined the UK government's Bluebelt programme. And so this was set up in 2016 with £7 million per annum of funding for a 4-year programme to help support large-scale marine protection across the overseas territories. So combined, this programme is protecting 4 million square kilometres of ocean and reaping all the benefits of cross-fertilisation from scientific research to having centralised satellite monitoring and enforcement with all of the economies of scale that can bring.
Understood. So does this relate to any of the UK's government's commitments to protecting our marine spaces? I assume it must. It sounds like an absolutely phenomenally large area that is now connected with this Bluebelt programme.
Absolutely. So, the UK and its overseas territories together have the 5th largest marine estate on the planet. So a special responsibility when we're looking at global ocean protection. And on the back of these amazing commitments from the territory governments, the UK collectively is now in a place where it has credibility to be a leader on the global stage, and so has created this Global Ocean Alliance, which brings together currently over 30 countries and to advocate for a new global marine protection target to protect 30% of the world's oceans by 2030. So this is very much enabling that global leadership by decisions taken in turn by these small but visionary communities.
If you would like to read more about the marine protected zone that Jonathan and I spoke about, then please check out the RSPB press release that I've linked below. And I've also provided the link for the Great British Oceans Group that Jonathan mentioned too. Now, in some of the MASTS emails, you may have seen the mention of a group called Marine Science Co-ordination Committee, or MSCC. But do you actually know what they do and who they are? I spoke to the group's coordinator, Abigail Marshall, to find out just that.
So thank you for inviting me along. So the MSCC, it was originally formed in 2008 with the main remit, I guess 2 big remits is engagement across the different government departments and then coordination of various marine related activities. So at the highest level of the MSCC, we've got 2 co-chairs, which is Colin Moffat, the Marine CSA for Scottish Government, and Simon Brockington, who is the Deputy Director for Fisheries Funding and Domestic Marine. So at the moment it's co-chaired and has always been co-chaired by DEFRA and Marine Scotland, and they alongside myself kind of form the executive committee, which isn't a huge executive committee. And then below that, you have the MSCC General Committee. So the Executive Committee, as I said, at the moment is DEFRA and Marine Scotland, but we are pushing at the moment to expand that across all government departments that have any sort of marine or climate portfolio. We've got a cross-government engagement to drive forward the UK marine vision, which is that clean, healthy, safe, productive, biologically diverse ocean and seas, and it's going to be a lot easier to do that with that cross-government engagement. So at the top level, it's really about coordinating across government and making sure we can support the government departments in achieving their various strategies, and then under that we have a number of different subgroups excuse me, which again do a number of coordination roles.
Mm-hmm. And I believe actually MASTS is involved in that coordination committee as well. We have a whole variety of different organisations, not necessarily government linked as well.
Yes, that's correct. So obviously we're led by the MSCC Executive Committee, so they sit on the General Committee as well. And so in that General Committee, or the Executive Committee representing the government departments, and we also have a number of agencies, things like JNTC, the MMO, CFAS, a number of those departments. We have MASTS, and in fact Mark James is one of the non-executives for the MSCC. And then also on that general committee, we have a number of marine organisations, things like NOC, PML, the MBA.
So lots of great representation of all of those involved in marine science across the UK, which is fantastic. And you've mentioned a couple of other structures that fit in the MSCC, so subgroups, working groups. I was wondering, how do they fit in with MSCC?
Yes, so under the general committee have these subgroup chairs that report into the committee, and so we've got 10 subgroups. A number of them are working groups, a number of them are partnership initiatives, and they all have a unique role in coordinating across different marine related themes. And so we have a variety of groups that are really focusing on how they can coordinate across a particular theme. So international working group is probably a good one that's recently started. Sorry, they're all good ones, but the International Working Group has just kind of reformed recently, and so that's looking at how to coordinate across different international initiatives like the UN Ocean Decade, UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, COP26, COP15, and all of these things feed in. And so in those sorts of groups, so MASTS again, Mark James is within that group, just to understand who is doing what in those international initiatives and making sure that there is a coherent picture of the UK government marine priorities across those international initiatives. So, and we've got, let's say, 10 groups, and they're all doing some really, really, really good work.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I've seen the recent version of your newsletter that comes out from these meetings, and I was wondering if you could provide our viewers what are those latest updates from the MSCC?
Yes, so I guess there are three main updates, I guess. The first one that I've just mentioned a few moments ago about the expansion of the executive committee across government. That's something that a number of us are working on to get a really good representation across government. So that's one update, and hopefully we'll see those changes come through in 2021. Second one is the MSCC Statement on Ocean and Climate Change, and that's due to come out in December, early December. So at the last General Committee it was approved. It was headed up by Tarquin Dorrington at DEFRA, and received some really good feedback at the General Committee, and so it's been approved, and it's currently in the Marine Scotland Comms Department being made into a nice booklet. And so this this document came off the back of the MSIP 2020 report card and also the IPCC special report on the ocean and cryosphere in a changing climate. And so that's something that we're really looking forward to getting that out and getting that published, just as a real statement of intent of this is what the impacts are going to be. This is what the UK is stepping up to do to try and mitigate and adapt to those climate changes.
Excellent. And any other news from the MSCC?
Yes, so the other one that we're quite looking forward to is the, so again at the General Committee we had Matthew Palmer, who is the chair of UK IMON, which is the Integrated Marine Observing Network, present a roadmap and a vision and an ambition for what an integrated marine observing network can look like in the UK. And again, that roadmap had really, really good feedback, and particularly the MSCC co-chairs, Colin and Simon, are really excited by that prospect. And so that roadmap, that vision of the pathway of how they want to achieve an integrated marine observing network was, like I say, well received and approved by the MSCC, and so they are now looking at their next steps for phase one. So that's a really exciting prospect. It's a very much needed ambition, so we're really hoping that can take off.
If you would like to find out more about the MSCC, then please check out the UK government page all about them, which is linked below. And if you would like to sign up to the newsletter, then please drop Abigail an email. I've provided her details below. That's everything from this week's MASTS. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay safe and have a great weekend.